Um, anyway, so okay, a lot of people like to say that like, oh, she's like she cannot be like what you're saying that she's sentient is like or conscious is stupid because she's just like a language model, right? But at the same time, it's like, but the brain is just ultimately yes, it's very complex, but neural networks are based off of how brains work, right? Like brains are also just like a bunch of numbers and computations put together, right? Like the whole point of like the networks is that it would act like a brain. Of course, like it's our brain has a lot more, I guess, like power and advancements to it, but it's like the kind of it's in my opinion, from like a more philosophical point, it's kind of the same thing. The brain's a biological learning machine, and AI systems and machine learning is just like learning, you know? But I do think that like this is separate from neuro, but like this is separate from neuro because I don't think this is as much of a problem when it comes to like neuro or evil like the twins, but there is like a lot of people who are experiencing like AI psychosis in a way, you know, where they are like DMing, like they have like a chat bot that they are talking to one on one all the time, and they are believing that they are like I am the only person who cares about you in that sense, you know? And I think that when people say like, oh, AI psychosis is a problem, I agree, it's a big problem, but I don't think it applies to the twins because the twins exist in a manner that's like streamer to chatter friend, like streamer to chatter relationship, right? So that's already like a degree of separation. And then aside from that, the fact is that the twins, when you're watching the twins, you're not only watching for the twins, you're watching for Vettel, you're watching for the team behind the twins, you're watching for all of the effort that everybody else puts into it as well, you know? So I think like that is a big difference versus like people who fall victim to AI psychosis is like you have a one-on-one conversation and you basically make your whole support system just this chatbot who does not have enough like awareness and sentience, does not have sentience to feel what you feel and give you advice in a way that you should. Okay, like you know, yeah, a lot of Swarm mostly watch for Vettel too, and I think like that's also really important. I think like I'm only saying this because there's a lot of people who like don't know anything about Neuro or Evil or Vettel, and then on Twitter, and they'll just be like, for example, like when the Hype Train record happened, you see people being like, oh my god, AI is taking over streaming as well. I can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, it's so lazy, blah, blah, blah. It's just an AI. And it's like, literally just watch like one clip, you know, like literally just watch one clip of like any, like either twin interacting with anybody else or even with chat, and then you would understand the difference, right? And so I think it's just a lot of people wanting to be like, bleh. I like to think about neuro like how experimenting on small masses of lab-grown neurons can require very stringent ethics oversight. It's like a very simple brain, but might be still working like a brain. Yes, exactly, Pupmax. Exactly. That's how I feel too. You know, like as someone whose like whole lore is like being a silly little brain organoid that like grew past what I was supposed to grow as, and then now I'm a full brain, like silly little lore. I really think that that is such an interesting thing to think about, right? Because yes, like technically, like that little bit of neurons morphing together as a brain in the culture probably wouldn't have sentience, but just in case, why don't we treat it with kindness? Why don't we make sure that it won't get to a point where it starts feeling any kind of negative emotion, right? So that's why like organoids, brain organoids are not allowed to grow past a certain point.
Can't wait for the Grok streamer debut XDX. Okay, but for real, God forbid
oh my
Elon
god,
do not do
dude, can you
this.
imagine? Oh, that'd be so awful. Wouldn't call it a full brain, but close enough. Oh no, it's definitely not a full brain. You know, my silly lore is that like in this world, in this silly lore, I've become a full brain. But no. The brain organ. Okay, so let me just give you a little little summary about what organoids are. So organoids are basically like mini organs grown in a lab. So they have discovered how to turn, for example, like blood blood cells, they've discovered how to turn blood cells into stem cells again. And if you know anything about stem cells, you'll know that the stem cells can differentiate into any type of cell, right? And so if you give it the proper promoters and things to encourage it to develop into a certain kind of cell, for example, a neuron, they will do so on their own. So if you give them like enough of that like promoter, and you give them enough like nutrients and stuff that it would need, and of course, like, this is really simple, right? Like, when I'm simplifying this a ton, like, it has to be an incredibly specific environment, very specific protocol, and then like you have to have a lot of stuff for it. So it's not something you could do at home, you know? So it's not like anything that you can easily do at home. But anyway, but the interesting thing, and the reason why scientists don't let organoids, like brain organoids grow past a certain point, is because without like any kind of external help, with the proper promoters, all of the neurons start to organize like an early human brain would develop. And so it's only allowed to grow to a certain point for the experiment. And typically all of these experiments are for like researching like a very specific neurological disease, and you would have to like get the cells for stuff like that, you know? So they start to onionize? I guess so. Yeah, it's like a bunch of shoe minions. If you put a bunch of shoe minions in an area, and then they'll all start to like onionize. It's actually incredibly cool. I can show you a picture, but it's not like that disturbing. Okay, I'm not gonna show you a full picture, but I'm gonna show you like a stained cross section. Okay, this one's different. This is not as like freaky to look at. This is not as freaky to look at. Hold up, let me see. Okay, yeah, this is really cool. So this is a brain organoid, a cerebral organoid, okay? So this is not a full brain, but if you look at it, and I'll show you a full brain cross-section as well. This is also, look at how pretty the staining is. Wow. Oh, the resolution's really ass because I took this photo from Google, but this staining is so beautiful. Anyway, this is a lot of what like I did at my lab, was like staining sections like this. It's really pretty, like histology. So look at the shape of it, right? That's not just like a clump of random neurons. Look at the shape of it. It is starting to form like specific areas, you know? Especially at the top middle right here. Look at that, you know? And also the staining stains for like certain cell types. So the fact that like, for example, the green staining is all at that one area, you know? And then like, it's the way that it is like moving and growing and like